reached your monthly streaming quota. I have never seen that.
Is that fun?
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Brittany Jennings coming to you from the Seniors-Bluebook, and today I am joined by Matt Call of Alzheimer's Home Therapy. So welcome.
Thank you.
So today we are going to talk to Matt about his business. He is the owner, founder, and has gone into many, many hours of research for the program that he provides. So Matt, without further ado, tell us a little bit about your background and then kind of how you got into the company that you own now.
Okay. Well, I began in 2001. I began working as a mental health counselor. So I worked with children at the time and basically came up with behavior plans to help children. And then I went on to make treatment plans and help staff learn how to work with kids.
Mm-hmm.
In 2009, my great grandmother passed away from dementia, and that was hard. It seemed like at the time my family really didn't have the ability to take care of her or the training of how to do so. We did a lot of things, incorrectly, and it seemed like we had the best intentions in mind, but it was just difficult to do things for her. For instance, we would during Thanksgiving we would take her home. And she didn't want to be there. She just kept saying, I just want to go home. I want to go home. And people were telling her, you don't live at home anymore. And that just kind of, that would cause her to have an outburst.
Right.
And, just put her at risk.
Yeah, so it was a experience even years ago, personally with your family, that kind of, I think, opened your eyes into the passion of people that do suffer from cognitive impairments.
Yeah, and actually in high school we had to do with senior service, and a lot of people had chosen working at the boys club, girls club, doing fun type activities with kids, and I actually chose to work at a memory care facility, and I worked with a woman that had dementia, and she thought I was actually her son, and I just kind of went along with it, and you could tell that she was a lot happy whenever I came in. She would smile and talk to me about, what we used to do when I was a kid. And
that's really sweet.
Yeah, it just really helped her. I really liked doing that.
That's awesome. That's like when I was in college, my professor said to me, to make a difference in the workforce once you graduate, you need to set yourself up aside and do like an internship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into a community that it was an assisted living. I had no idea what that meant back then, but it had a memory care as well. And I would always start my day in the memory care and end my day there because it was just a special place. And there was a little lady that I can't mention her name, but she thought I was one of her family members too. And so she would always talk to me about daddy and being out on the farm, and you just adapt.
Mm-hmm.
You have to adapt to their world, right? So anyway, so tell us about with Alzheimer's Home Therapy, how did that get started, and what is it based on?
Well, it was actually, I guess, a little bit of luck on my part. At the hospital that I worked at, the psychiatric hospital, I was friends with a social worker there, and she had left to go work at another hospital, working with people with dementia. She called me up one day and she said, would you be interested in coming here? We need a program that can help our, people in our memory care unit. They had a lot of falls, a lot of restraints, a lot of chemical restraints, and they wanted to decrease that. So they were looking at, something for them to do during the day, and also kind of, like I did before, see how the staff interacted. And during that time I spent 3 years there. I spent 1,000 hours on my program, and basically I would go in and I would interact with the patients, and also I would monitor how other people interacted with them, like the nurses, doctors, the floor staff, and because of that, I've came up with the best practices of how you can deal with situations to avoid the outbursts.
Right, the behaviors that may come along.
Yep. And at the end of it, they significantly decreased the amount of falls, and restraints, and they started to send a lot more people home rather than to nursing facilities.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was really rewarding.
What about the environment? Did you change anything in the actual environment they were in that made a big difference?
Yeah, I constantly do research, on the topic. One of the things that they did incorrectly was they had a lot of, I would go in and there'd be a lot of dark rooms, and they keep the lights very low. And then later on in the day, at sundown, they'd have a lot of problems.
Right.
And, they didn't realize that you're supposed to keep people in a bright environment throughout the day. So that significantly helped. So it just changes like that. Had them make the, rooms brighter colored. Again, it was just a really, really neat experience, and I actually got a lot of help from the patients, giving me ideas on how to make the place better.
That's wonderful. So all this research, I love that word, all the research that you did has brought you to this company, Alzheimer's Home Therapy. Tell us what you do for clients, because I know that you work with them at home, like caregivers, specifically one-on-one at home, but part of your business is also training at communities, right? So what does that kind of look like when you go into a community to work with caregivers who are taking care of memory care environments?
Well, I've noticed, state to state that what I feel facilities don't have enough training, and there really aren't any resources to get additional training. Basically, this traditional training gives people an introduction to dementia, what the behaviors are, the different types of dementia, the stages, but they really don't go into, what happens when the behaviors begin.
Sure.
How to de-escalate somebody, how to communicate when they've lost their ability to verbally communicate. Using things, I use picture exchange systems where you use pictures to help the person, basically communicate.
Okay.
And I think that's really important because once their verbal communication starts to go, it really affects them because dementia gradually takes a person's independence.
Right.
And being able to have an outlet to be able to communicate lets them hold on to some, that independence, and that ends up increasing their quality of life.
Yeah, being able to make choices still. I'm the first thing that came to my mind, maybe because I want a cheeseburger and fries, was for meals, to be able to show whether it's the actual meal and show them both and give them a choice, but you said the pictures, being able to show them, maybe it's a bathroom, or maybe it's food, or whatever it might be, maybe it's clothing, to give them a choice, but it's always so important to give some level of independence.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that facilities, I think the, families, if they do send somebody to a assisted living, memory care, I think they feel like, okay, now the facility is going to take over, they're going to do what's right. And, the families don't realize that they still have an important job to do. Communicate. I'll give you an example. There was one person in assisted living, and the person absolutely loved chocolate ice cream. And the person was always presented with a picture, and the picture depicted white, so they thought it was a vanilla ice cream. They didn't want vanilla ice cream. So the person would have an outburst because they really wanted that ice cream, but they couldn't figure it out. So, talking to the family, they said, oh, they don't, they despise vanilla ice cream. They like chocolate ice cream. So simple as that. And, they wouldn't have known that if the family, didn't share that with them.
Absolutely. So with, I know from working in communities, I know that typically you take Alzheimer's 1 and 2, and it's almost like an annual, we had a ready learning system in a community setting. So that's kind of the minimal, like you said, that you learn, whether you're reading it or you're in a class. But I think going out and actually doing providing the care and being able to handle that, your company would take that training to the next level for caregivers, such as today we're at Grand Villa of Inglewood. They're allowing us to use their space, and they have memory care here. So tell us what it would look like. You would come in, and let's say it would be like a staff meeting or training, and how long is the training, and what does that, a little more detail about what that entails.
Well, my training, it lasts 6 hours. I hate to condense it because there's so much to learn. When I go into a facility, I want at least the supervisory staff, the head nurses to be there, because once I train them, they can facilitate to their staff, have it be part of the new hire process, part of their annual workshops that they have. It's just so important because a lot of caregivers can really be proactive, and I think people really today's, they're reactive.
Yes, exactly.
To behaviors, and it's just because they don't have the skills, to be proactive. They don't know what they can do. I'll give you an example. A lot of people don't know how to handle. They don't know how to handle outbursts, but usually that outburst is something that can be prevented.
Right.
A lot of people will have, environmental things that trigger them. It's sensory overload. So during that time, with their sensory overload, there's something that's causing that. Whether it be a loud sound, maybe a person that reminds them of someone, maybe, a taste of the senses, are all involved. Maybe it's a dog. I worked with one person where there was a dog barking constantly outside. And as a child, the person had been bitten by a dog, and they just didn't like dogs, but nobody could figure it out.
Right.
And finally, the caregiver the family caregiver was really, I told them, okay, look for, precipitants, what happens at that time, be a detective, journal things down. And they finally figured out, it was the dog.
Interesting. Because, everybody is so different. You never know what's going to trigger something for somebody. What if somebody lives let's say in a memory care environment in a community, and do you ever come in and work with those people individually, just that person to kind of study, like you said, be a detective to see, let's say because I know there's communities watching that do have people that live in the community that they're trying to find, without using medication and things, they're trying to find these natural ways to help people. So do you ever come into the community and actually kind of monitor the behaviors or see, what's going on, and then maybe change the environment or help them out that way?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize simple changes can be made to help people, like I said, with the lighting. Having a dark environment, it can increase confusion, anxiety, loud noises. Maybe they have a resident that, is a lot louder. Maybe, doing something to, a lot of times you can't really separate the person because that's where they are. But talking to them, maybe that person is being triggered by something, figuring that out, because one person can affect the whole community.
Definitely. Yeah, and I see it like for the skilled nursing folks that are watching, people that are working in those. Again, Matt did all his research in a environment like that so if you wanted to reach out to Matt to come in and meet with him, he's an excellent resource to be able to kind of look at the environment itself, see if there's any adjustments, be able to come in and train caregivers. And like he said, he comes in once, right? And you do the 6-hour training, and then the leadership team can then train their staff. I know it's once a year you have to get the Alzheimer's 1 and 2, but this is a way to separate your community and say, we have an enhanced memory care environment because we have this additional training. It's just like with Parkinson's, it just reminded me of the Big and Loud program that some of the communities have their, whether it's an outpatient or home health teams that are third party, come in and do this additional training and have them certified for Big and Loud. So it's kind of that way to, because there are a lot of communities out there, which I love you all, but being able to have someone like Matt come out and really come in and do some in-depth training, I think would make a huge difference for the whole community.
Yeah, and a lot of, I don't think a lot of management in these communities realize. I mean, my program has helped, avoid staff injury. So it's helped with decreased workers' comp claims. So it's beneficial to the caregiver. There's less caregiver burnout for informal and formal professional caregivers. There's just a ton of benefits from it. Less staff turnover because people are more trained, and I think it really helps everybody. Like I said, caregivers get into this line of work because they have that compassion and caring. I don't think anybody gets into the line of work that isn't a compassionate person. So I think this additional training will really help them. I think a lot of people who don't have the training end up leaving the field, and they would have made great caregivers.
I agree. A lot of it does come down to the training you receive and feeling prepared that you're doing a great job and making a difference. And yeah, I used to say, like, you'll know if you start at a community as a caregiver within 30 days, you'll know whether you're meant to be or if it's something different, you need to take a different road. Because you have to have the compassion, the empathy, the understanding to, especially if you're in the environment with people who do have some type of cognitive decline, you have to be able to adjust to their world and be able to figure out ways to keep them happy and well cared for.
Yep, absolutely. And my program is evidence-based. So the 1,000 hours that I spent, all the nurses, the staff, they had to do a little bit of extra homework during the day. That they would jot down, the results of the work that I did, and I keep notes. And it really did make a difference. I think one of the biggest things in facilities that, even the government wants is the decrease in restraints, the decrease in falls. And the hospital I worked at, it was on 2 locked dementia units, and they were on a locked, unit for a reason.
Sure.
They were very, very violent. Had a lot of self-injurious behavior. Just having a really, really hard time, and just being able to go in and help those people. I'll give you an example. I worked with a gentleman that he was at least 6'7", 6'8".
Wow.
And he was close to 250 pounds. He had been a college football player. He was almost going to be a professional. And he would talk about that all the time, which was great when he was doing okay. But he would just get so frustrated when he was unable to do things for himself, like, put on his shoes. People didn't realize that, okay, just get him Velcro shoes. Something that simple. And, one day he was having a hard time in the bathroom because he couldn't button his pants. And he actually ripped the sink off and threw it out into the room. And, just because of his his frustration.
Frustrated he couldn't do it.
Yeah, and he was just so confused. And what ended up happening, one of the nurses ran over and, I was about to go in the room. They said, no, do not go in there. You're going to get hurt. I'm going to call security. Security will come. They'll restrain him. We'll give him a chemical restraint. And then we'll put him in, they used chairs that had kind of like a pelvic restraint on them. And I said, no, you're not going to do that, because I'm going to go in, and I actually told the nurse, you're not my boss.
Yeah.
And I just went to the room, and I went to the bathroom, and I had a big smile on my face, and I said, hey, how you doing? Hey, let's go watch, there's a football game on right now. Luckily it was a Sunday, and there was.
Oh, good.
And so he just stopped. And he had a big smile on his face, and said back to me, "Hey, buddy," and it just changed things. And then, that's one less restraint that they had to do. And a lot of times people don't realize that it's these chemical restraints, these antipsychotics that they give people that are actually increasing their falls.
Right. Exactly.
So such a this 6-hour training that I do. I don't want to say simple because it covers so much, but it's a very easy fix. It can make communities so much better.
Definitely. And like you said, it can be the matter of somebody going, if they're in a rehab, it's a matter of somebody going back home. Because as we all know, any of us, but especially as we do age, one fall can be the matter of whether you're going to be able to go home or you're going to end up in a community where, again, it's extremely difficult transition as you have memory impairment to transition to a different environment, which can increase, especially the first 30, 60, 90 days. It can increase the frustration level, the behaviors, things like that. So, so I think all in all, Matt is an amazing guy. I just met him a couple months ago. He just came on board with Blue Book. Woohoo! But what he offers is invaluable. It's, again, a 6-hour training class, and he can come to your community. You do travel around, you're not just in Sarasota County. Where, kind of explain to viewers that are watching, if they do want to take advantage of your program, what areas do you cover?
I'm actually even going to be going to the East Coast.
Okay.
Down in Boca Raton, I believe, to do a training down there. I've worked with, several communities, Homewell being one. They're actually probably one of my favorite, because they were so open, their staff was so willing to learn more. And I'm going to be going to their other facilities throughout the state.
Definitely.
That they have. They've opened 3 new ones, and hopefully I'll be working with their headquarters to develop a training program for all of the, the home health that are out there.
Awesome. And that's a great point too that I forgot to bring up, which was home care. So if you're doing private duty, there's a lot of companies in the area that, again, with caregivers, that they need the additional training. Please reach out to Matt. Make sure you use him as a resource. It's always free just to call you and find out kind of what's involved and the cost of what that is. But it's a very extremely valuable service that he offers. And I haven't heard anybody that offers this specifically the way you do. So it's so important in our area to have you as a resource.
Thank you.
Any last words of wisdom? I always like to end with that, to put people on the spot and see if there's anything you want to share with viewers.
I would just say that caregivers are always so down, on themselves. It's a very, very hard job.
Mm-hmm.
And, what I like to tell them is, that they're doing a very special thing. I have, the utmost respect for, family caregivers and professional caregivers. It's a very hard job. And I think that people need to realize that, if a person does have a behavior or, maybe they're just having a bad day, the person doesn't know that, there's a precipitant, an environmental thing that's going to be bothering them, or a stimuli, that, they're doing their best. A lot of people, unwittingly, do things that might cause harm, even though they have the best of intentions. So, I encourage people to kind of be easy on themselves.
Oh, that's a great piece of advice. And take care of yourselves. Make sure you're making time for yourself. Use the resources around to reach out and help, because there are some really great resources in the area, and that's the point of what we all do. Yeah. So again, thank you, Matt, for being here today with us. And again, we want to give a shout out as well to somebody might be at the door. We want to give a shout out to Grand Villa of Inglewood. They are an assisted living and memory care community in Inglewood, and they are amazing. So if you do want any information about their community, Elle is the sales director here, and I will put her phone number as well for you to reach out. Thanks again.
Thank you
for being here, and we hope everybody that's watching has a wonderful rest of the week and Halloween tomorrow.
Oh, that should be fun.
Are you going to dress up, you and your son?
No, my son is.
It's got to be like a daddy-son thing. You got to have a costume too.
Well, he's going to be Bumblebee from the Transformers.
Oh my gosh, that's cute. Is he going to be like the car portion, or like how?
His costume has like tires on it, like by the shoulders, and
that's cute.
It's far from what I had. That's the weird smelling plastic mask when I was a kid.
That's awesome. All right, well, everybody, again, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.